More than 70,000 come to Darlington every year to share the electric excitement of the Southern 500. For the track at Darlington is more than slick asphalt and wicked turns. This is a track with history, and the men who come to drive have that history burned into their own memories. For 24 years, they've written a proud record book. Major League stock car racing began on this track, and the men remember. Take Bobby Allison. He'll never forget that 2 years ago, he trailed Richard Petty for miles, then blasted his way into the lead. Petty had more than 100 victories in stock car racing. Allison was a struggling driver just beginning to make a name for himself. When Allison beat Richard Petty and won the Southern 500, the racing world took notice. It was a turning point in Allison's career. He had his pick of cars to drive, and more than that, when he beat the track at Darlington, he knew how good he really was. A year after that victory, Allison was running second to David Pearson, another tough, shrewd driver with more than 50 victories behind him. Allison and Pearson locked horns in one of the most amazing battles in stock car history. Finally, Allison took the lead, and 100 miles later, the victory. A year ago, Allison became the third man in history to win 2 Southern 500s back-to-back. Now, can he do what's never been done? Win 3 in a row? This is Richard Petty. He's raced for 15 years, but Darlington's been tough on him. Richard has more than 152 victories in his career, but only once has he been able to win the Southern 500. 6 years ago, Richard climbed atop his car in Victory Lane. It was also a victory for Richard's father, Lee Petty, a retired race driver who had won everything except the Southern 5. Richard's wife, Linda, joined the celebration. She'd shared the thrills and the heartaches of 70,000 racing miles. Irrepressible Richard Petty is ready for another go at Darlington. Buddy Baker started racing here 11 years ago. Darlington's a narrow track, and when there's trouble ahead, there's nowhere to go. In 1969, Buddy learned that sometimes you pay for somebody else's mistakes. 4 years later, Buddy faced the same problem in the same place with the same results. Somebody in front of him made a mistake, and Buddy lost the race. When victory finally came to Buddy Baker, it was long overdue. Buddy's father, Buck, had won 3 Southern 500s in his brilliant career. Buddy's victory at Darlington marked the first time a father and son had won the same race on the same track. Buddy's run a lot of miles since this picture was taken in 1962. But the lure of victory at the Southern 500 keeps bringing him back. Cale Yarborough, born 11 miles from this track, peeked under the fence when he was a boy, not knowing that one day he would take a ride that would never be forgotten. In 1965, Cale was running in number 27, challenging Sam McCragg for the lead when suddenly, Cale Yarborough was outside the racetrack. He said later, "I looked down and saw grass, and I knew I was in trouble then, because no grass grows on the Darlington Raceway." Well, he walked away from that one and came back 5 years later to take another ride, almost as wild. He walked away from that one, too. Iron Man Cale Yarborough has made a boyhood dream come true. Once, in all the years, he won the Southern 500. It makes up for a lot. Cale hasn't won a 500-mile race in 3 years. He wants this one. David Pearson's won 9 super speedway races so far this season, but he's never won the Southern 500. 6 years ago, Pearson, number 17, challenged Cale Yarborough for the lead. There's just enough room for 2 cars in the first turn, if you're careful. Pearson wasn't careful enough. He finished second then, and was second last year to Bobby Allison. This year, Dave Pearson's having his best season ever, and he's tired of being the bridesmaid. Today, Pearson's driving the fastest qualifier. It's time to go racing.
Gentlemen, start your engine!
44 engines thunder to life. Leading the field from the inside of the first row, David Pearson, who qualified at more than 150 miles an hour. Next to him, Bobby Allison, winner of the last 2 Southern 500s. Inside the second row, Richard Petty in number 43. On the outside, a rookie, Darrell Waltrip. In row 3, Buddy Baker, number 71, and Charlie Glotzback, a hard-running veteran. Behind Glotzback is Cale Yarborough, number 11, and Benny Parsons in number 72. Stock car racing began here in the South, but now is a national sport. The infield and both grandstands are packed with fans from all the lower 48. Many of them have come every year since racing started in 1950. The fastest starting field ever seen at the Darlington Raceway is running for $138,000 in prize money and a place in the record book. They'll run 500 miles in less than 4 hours. On the front stretch, the caution flag keeps them down to 100 miles an hour. The green flag flies, and they're racing. Bobby Allison's engine bogs down, and David Pearson takes the lead, with Petty and Glotzback right behind him. Allison holds on to 4th spot as they accelerate through the first and second turns. Cale Yarborough is in 5th position. The backstretch, and they're really moving. Pearson leads Richard Petty into the 3rd turn. Petty slides and corrects. At 140 miles an hour, the track is slick as ice. Darrell Waltrip finds out the hard way. He slides into the wall on the 4th turn and heads right for the pits. Charlie Glotzback beats Richard Petty into the 1st turn and sets his sights on Dave Pearson. Glotzback follows a simple race plan. Drive it as hard as you can, as long as it'll run. If it breaks, build it better next time. As long as there's a car under him, Charlie will be tough. But Glotzback's not the only charger. There's a tough one right behind him. Here's Cale Yarborough making his move on Charlie Glotzback. Cale in number 11 grabs 2nd place. Bobby Allison is 4th. There are 3 Chevys chasing David Pearson's Mercury as the leaders overtake slower cars, putting them a lap down. Cale tries to lead. Can't do it. Bobby Allison thinks fast as Charlie Glotzback lifts his foot for an instant. Allison's got 3rd spot as the slower cars move out of the high, fast groove, giving the leaders racing room. That's what makes Darlington so tough. There's only one really fast way around the track. Richard Petty's dropped back to 5th place. Petty's smart enough to pace himself until the last 100 miles. Then, look out. David Pearson's still the leader, but Cale Yarborough is running him down. Then, takes the lead. Bobby Allison follows right behind him, putting his number 12 into 2nd position. In the wink of an eye, David Pearson drops from 1st to 3rd. Yarborough leads, Allison 2nd, then Pearson and Glotzback. The front runners are traveling 148 miles an hour, a new track record. Lenny Pond is in the pits, blindfolded. He suddenly found himself on instruments when the hood latches gave way. Yarborough leads, and Bud Moore's in trouble. Pearson, Glotzback, and Petty squeak by as Moore keeps it down out of the fast groove. There's no yellow flag. The race goes on. Pearson in number 21 and Glotzback in number 28 are dueling for third spot. But Cale Yarborough and Allison have pulled away in their own private battle for the lead. Average speed for the first 20 laps is 145 on a track originally designed for 75. Higher speeds require better communication. Many crews now use radio to keep their drivers informed. Junior Johnson's linked up with Cale Yarborough. A spin in turn 3. It's Tom Gale. There's another car out of control. Johnny Barnes in number 89. Someone broke an engine and spilled oil on the track. Jim Van Diver gets through the turn backwards as quick reflexes save some other drivers. David Sisko is another spin victim. Nobody hurt. The safety car moves out to slow the field and get in position in front of the leader. The race cars may close up, but cannot pass one another according to the rules of NASCAR, the association controlling this race. There's a fire in the pits on the backstretch. Gasoline splashed out of the refueling tank and ignited. A crewman's shoe is burning. Those red cans carry 11 gallons of gasoline. The fire is under control before anything is lost, except a pair of shoes. The safety car pulls off the track as the field lines up for the restart. In the outside lane is Bobby Allison, Buddy Baker, and Cale Yarborough running 1, 2, 3 as the green flag restarts the race. Buddy Baker, driving Dodge number 71, is challenging for the lead. Baker, winner here in 1970, has moved up among the leaders after a fast pit stop. Baker takes the lead, and in the same moment, Charlie Glotzback takes third away from Cale Yarborough. It's almost as important for some drivers to lead the race as to win it. Allison, Petty, and Pearson only care about leading the last lap. But Glotzback and Baker want to run in front. Backstretch, Baker moves low on the track as his speed suddenly drops. Glotzback runs for daylight. Charlie Glotzback takes the lead, but there goes Bobby Allison snatching it away. Only Allison Chevy can pass low on the track in the fourth turn, but Glotzback's been showing a little more power on the straightaway. Glotzback blasts into the lead again. This is tremendous racing. Allison in number 12 settles for second place and waits for another chance. He passed Glotzback once and has the confidence that comes with winning. In a long race, there are times to challenge and times to follow the flow of traffic, waiting, watching, learning. On the front stretch, Allison tests Glotzback, but Charlie keeps it right on the edge, giving away nothing. Chevys are flying down the backstretch. Cale Yarborough in third spot, looking for his chance to run in front. Into the third turn where Allison can really run. And there he goes, dropping down and taking the lead. Allison is the only driver who knows that short way around this track. Allison keeps that engine wound tight and holds the lead down the front stretch. Yarborough is looking at Glotzback's bumper and at Allison out in front of the pack. Taking one thing at a time, Cale in number 11 sets his sight on Glotzback. At the end of the backstretch, Cale gets him. Now only Allison stands between Yarborough and first place. There's a spin in turn 4. It's Richie Pants coming off the guardrail into the wall, then down across the track in the face of heavy traffic. Pants is only 18 years old, but right now he must feel a lot older. He's safe, but that was a close one. Again, the caution car goes onto the track to slow traffic so the surface can be cleaned and inspected. Richard Petty's making an unscheduled pit stop after running some ragged laps. A top driver like Petty can run one lap after another with less than a tenth of a second difference between them. When the stopwatches show an uneven pattern, the driver may be tiring. Petty's crew has a relief driver standing by in the pits. Richard Stock car racing's most successful driver, with more victories than the next two men combined, is giving up the car. South Carolina has been baking in a week-long heat wave that sent temperatures into the high 90s. The temperature of the track surface is more than 140 degrees. There's a three-car accident on the fourth turn. Ray Williams, J.D. McDuffie, and Henley Gray mangle each other's sheet metal, but don't do serious damage to man or machine. That's Henley Gray's car with fender at half-mast. The yellow flag slows the traffic while a wrecker goes out to bring Gray's car back to the pits. Cale Yarborough's Chevy is in the pits, needing fuel and tires. Right behind him is Dave Pearson's Mercury. The first car back on the track will have an edge when the green flag waves. It's a race of pit crews as 5 men service each car, changing 2 tires and pouring in 20 gallons of gas. In 16 seconds, Cale's rolling again, and Pearson's right behind him. The pits at a NASCAR race are the fastest service stations in the world. At the end of pit road, they're held until the traffic breaks. Then, in the same order, they rejoin the pack. Cale will be in front of Pearson when the green flag waves. Charlie Glotzback drives behind the pit wall and out of the race. The rear end is threatening to lock up, and Charlie would rather park it than crash it. They're ready for a restart. The green flag will come out in one more lap. But Cale Yarborough gives up first place and heads back to the pits. Yarborough's crew saw Dave Pearson's mechanic signal for a pit stop. Pearson realized the green was about to fly and ignored his pit signal. But Yarborough's crew has radioed to their driver, who has obeyed. Now, Cale has 4 new tires, but a lot of lost ground to make up. He'll be in back of the field when they restart the race. The other cars are half a lap ahead, traveling 90 miles an hour behind the safety car, as Yarborough roars out of the pits, running hard to close up with Pearson and Allison, who are both ahead of him. Glotzback is out. Baker has spent too much time in the pits. Petty's car is not as fast without Richard at the wheel. It's down to a 3-way battle now. Cale Yarborough has less than 100 miles in which to catch Pearson. Yarborough has closed in on Bobby Allison and goes by him to take second place. Allison has slowed down. He may be having trouble with his car. Buddy Baker's car handles better on fresh tires, and he goes by Pearson to unlap himself. This should put some heart in Yarborough. If Baker can pass Pearson, then perhaps Yarborough can catch him too. Jim Van Diver parks his car in the third turn. He hasn't been running right since an earlier crash. There's no yellow flag. The race goes on, full speed ahead. Yarborough has hauled up on Dave Pearson, who has never won the Southern 500, although he won the Rebel race run here in the spring on 3 occasions. The Southern 500 has jinxed him, although he finished second to Bobby Allison a year ago and to Cale Yarborough in 1968. Any finish better than 4th today will put Pearson over the $1 million mark in total purses won. There are 15 laps to go in the race, and Pearson knows that Yarborough is going to be knocking on the door any second. This is what stock car racing is all about. The final showdown after more than 400 miles of blazing competition. Cale Yarborough's going to try for the lead. Yarborough taps Pearson's fender, and Pearson's out of control. Yarborough takes the lead. Here's the way it looked from a close-up camera. Because they're running on the edge of control, the slightest contact can cause a spin if it happens at the wrong place on the track. All drivers know this and try to keep some daylight between the fenders. Pearson still wants to win. He's right on Cale Yarborough's rear deck. If he were any closer, he'd be in Yarborough's back seat. There's no contact. This game is too serious, too fast, and too dangerous for fender banging. Yarborough's Chevy has the lead, with Pearson's Mercury close as a coat of paint and 6 laps still to race. First place is worth $20,000. Second is worth only half of that. But they're running for more than money. Both of these men have worked and suffered on this track. Both have seen victory and defeat. And both will tell you when you've won at Darlington, you've done it all. Again, Pearson tries for the lead. And again, Yarborough holds him off. As a boy, Yarborough peeked through these fences. As an underage youth, he lied his way into the starting field. Now, he's got a chance for his second victory at this track that lies only 11 miles from his hometown. Pearson's running hard as ever in second place, but Cale Yarborough has found extra horsepower and is running away with first place. Yarborough has put a lot of daylight between himself and Pearson's second-place car. His Chevy is running fine, and Cale doesn't want to spoil things by changing his pace. 3 laps to go. 2 cars spin coming out of turn 2. It's Henry Gray involved in his second accident of the day, and James Hilton goes with him this time. Hilton will try to keep it running, but for Henry Gray, limping around to the pits, this was not his best day. There are 2 laps to go. Pearson has closed in on Yarborough. The caution signal slows all cars. Will the green flag again signal for high speed? There's the white flag on the front stretch, and the pace car is on the track, leading Cale Yarborough on the last lap. They'll finish the race under yellow. Cale has his hand raised in a victory salute. He's done all the high-speed running for the day. There's nothing left to prove. Cale Yarborough is the fastest who ran longest at Darlington this afternoon. Cale Yarborough cruises into sight of the checkered flag, running no more than 90 miles an hour. It's hard to believe the first race run in 1950 was won at an average speed of 76 miles an hour. Yarborough's winning speed, 134 miles an hour, a new record. His crew runs to meet him at Victory Lane after flashing the traditional sign that means, "Come in. We'll help you spend part of the first-place money." Yarborough's victory was a popular one. His fans in South Carolina are many and loud. Cale Yarborough wheels to Victory Lane to meet his crew. As Junior Johnson put it, some of the crew got ill when the car was wrecked so often, but there's no better medicine than to win a big race. There's a hug for Herb Nabb, the crew chief, while Junior Johnson waits nearby. If that pit stop had gone wrong, if Cale hadn't been able to catch Pearson in the final laps, well, riots have started for less in this part of the country. Yarborough is joined in victory circle by his wife Betty Jo and their daughter Julianne. Cale Yarborough, who went over the wall 8 years ago, has won his second Southern 500. For Cale, for the fans who stretch for a glimpse of the winner, and for those who now must pack up and look for a way out of the infield, it's been a long, lovely day at Darlington Southern 500.